Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living your life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Are you ready to begin living in a state of expansion instead of contraction? Well, welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone, and welcome to the fourth installment in this new series on understanding the dualistic nature of life in terms of expansion and contraction. This type of understanding is quite fascinating, and it permeates almost every aspect of life, at least in regards to our physical and mental reality. So today I would like to begin drawing upon a topic that may at first seem a bit unlikely, but in truth plays an extremely important role in understanding expansion and contraction. This is going to draw upon a perspective borrowed from martial arts, but don't tune out if you're not into martial arts. That's just fine, because this will apply to everyone in ways you may have never thought of before. Now, as this is a more mental and spiritual-based program, I won't go into the depth of definition and meaning according to the samurai of Japan or modern Japanese society or even in martial arts. All of those things I do for my martial arts students. But instead, today I'd like to explain how you can take the very heart of these warriors and apply it to your own life in order to allow you to develop a broader perspective that will allow you to live in a space of expansion instead of contraction and unlock your ability to live a fully engaged life. What I'm referring to here are the 7 virtues of the Code of Bushido. We'll be focusing on these incredible virtues from a practical and spiritual perspective. I'm including these virtues in this series due to the outstanding manner in which they can help us to greatly expand the very quality of our personal character. Now, if you are a martial artist and you're very knowledgeable about these virtues, stay tuned in, because I think you're going to find that I'm going to offer a perspective that may be quite different from what you're used to. And one of the problems I've found with these virtues, at least here in the United States, is that most martial artists have a tendency to make up their own meaning or just go to the dictionary to see what they mean. Now, most of us throughout the world have some idea of what these virtues are. But what I'm going to do is offer you something very clear. Now, for the martial artists, they have to understand it from a samurai perspective, because that's who this set of 7 virtues belong to. However, we're looking at it from a practical and spiritual point, so we are going to look at it in that way, because through my observations, I find that these virtues have become absent in far too many people today. As we go through these virtues, take the occasion to pause and give some thought to how much better the world would be if people strive to live according to these types of virtues. As I go through the virtues, you'll come to see how they are interwoven with one another and that they create an amazing fabric of positive and expansive personal character. Now, in order to live by these virtues, it requires a fairly highly developed sense of mindfulness. Otherwise, people just have a tendency to forget and fall into their old, usual mental patterns. We must then remain ever mindful. Whenever we think, speak, or act, we must make sure we are doing so virtuously. When we uphold these virtues, we are energetically stronger, our electromagnetic field expands, it's also brighter, our vibration rises, our heart opens, and there's a constant state of appreciation. All of these things happen first within ourselves, and then expand outward to positively impact others around us. This speaks to the powerful expression of expansion. Okay, let's dive right into it. The first virtue has to be respect. It's been said that everything begins and ends with respect. I agree with that statement 100%. Respect is a virtue that the world needs much more of, and nowhere do I see a greater lack of respect in society as a whole than I do in the United States. It's a very unfortunate statement that I make, but I don't think it can be denied. In fact, the U.S. people are known throughout the entire world as being very disrespectful and rude, especially when traveling abroad. And while it is not the reputation we want, one could definitely argue that it is the reputation that many deserve. It's very sad. It's uncalled for. Take a look around. With a simple observation, you can look around and see the lack of respect. You can see how respect has fallen from decade to decade to decade, how people have become less and less respectful of themselves, respectful of others, respectful of their surroundings, respectful of nature, respectful of about everything. Respect has simply fallen away. This is a virtue that we need to reestablish, and we need to reestablish it now. We need to have more respect, and it needs to happen as soon as possible. Let's take a look then at how to incorporate respect into our personal character in order to be a better human being and also live in a greater state of expansion. You see, when we are acting respectfully, we are in a state of expansion, whereas when we act disrespectfully, we are in a state of contraction. I mean, just think about it. When we act with disrespect, this is ego, plain and simple. And there's a sense of separateness and superiority when we are engaged with the ego in this way. And the energy of this draws inward as it causes the heart to close. One cannot act disrespectfully without having their heart closed. And unfortunately, it usually impacts the closing hearts of others as well. When we act with respect, however, there's a greater sense of oneness and connection. This opens the heart, which is expansion. And we can see the positive impact of respect in those around us as well. Now, respectfulness in the context I'm referring to it here includes a sense of politeness and morality. Respectfulness begins with self-respect, as with most things of this nature. They begin from within before we ever have the power to allow them to expand outward. Often, those who are disrespectful are so because they don't really respect themselves. This is why they so violently demand respect from others, to fill that void within themselves. People of ordinary mind typically seek externally what they lack internally. We know this by the way people seek to fill the spiritual void in themselves with material things, which never works. What then are some of the ways we can begin to reclaim a greater state of respect? Here are a few suggestions to get you started. 1. Dress appropriately. Wearing pajamas or yoga pants to the grocery store to your college classes is disrespectful. Dress for the occasion. This shows that you respect yourself, and of course, that respect then expands outward to include the place you're going to and everyone else around you. Pajamas are for sleeping, and yoga pants are for working out doing actual yoga. Dressing down, or dressing casual as it's usually referred to now, is nothing more than laziness. It shows that we don't respect ourselves, we don't respect what we're doing or where we're going or anyone else. It also shows an incredible lack of mindfulness. Speaking and acting with sincerity is another fine demonstration of respect. When you are listening and speaking to another, do so sincerely. When you take an action, make sure that action has a sense of sincerity to it. Do it for the right reasons, not to pacify the ego or because it's social virtue signaling or whatever reason you may dream up. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Do it because it's sincere and respectful. Now, respect requires a sense of self-control, doesn't it? It's here that we run into the problem in our modern societies that focus on all of the individual over all else. Me, mine, with little to no concern for anyone else. I need to get mine. It's all about being able to get over on someone or some business. We need to develop a sense of self-control to do what is right in any situation and act respectfully in any situation. Also, it seems today that we give little thought to harming nature instead of respecting it. We destroy it instead of working with it. We need to be respectful of nature. And Japan has some wonderful examples of this. We need to work side by side with nature. We need to respect it. We need to stay connected to it. Even in terms of a broader sense of our environment, such as the cities we've built, we have a tendency to disrespect them, painting graffiti on the walls, breaking windows, throwing trash all around, and destroying or stealing anything that's decorative. We desperately need more respect in our society and in the world, and we need it now. Please take a moment and just imagine how much better the world would be if we all acted with a greater sense of respect. It begins with each of us. Respect cannot be demanded. This only breeds fake respect with contempt bubbling right under the surface. Respect is and always has been earned. Each of us must prove ourselves through mindfully speaking and acting with respect. The second virtue is integrity. Integrity implies a sense of moral rightness, not being self-righteous, but moral rightness, and living with a strong moral principle. This includes things like honesty, sincerity, and self-responsibility, as well as self-reliability. Today, few people and even fewer businesses conduct themselves with much of a sense of integrity. This is sorely lacking in Western society. It's sorely lacking in business all over the world. And I've begun to see it elsewhere as well. Integrity is an extremely valuable human trait. Indeed, integrity is said to be one of the most important virtues we can possess, and it gives rise to all of the other virtues. When we speak with integrity, we say what we mean, and we mean what we say. Lack of integrity is pretty obvious today, as it's become trendy for people to say something and then immediately apologize for it. We see celebrities and politicians and all kinds of other people doing this on a regular basis. When we speak with integrity, there is usually little need to ever apologize. Why? Because we said what we meant, and we meant what we said. If that's the case, why would you apologize? That's when you know you are in the right and you can hold your ground. In addition, we are people of our word. We need to keep our word. Whatever we say is our word. Put simply, if we say we're going to do something, we do it. If we say we're not going to do something, we don't. The same holds true with our actions. We must act with integrity. Integrity is a pretty simple concept, and the best way that I've ever heard to sum it up is through the idea of we say what we mean and we mean what we say. Whenever we think, speak, and act with integrity, we are in a state of expansion. Our heart is open because we're being authentic and truthful. We're even physically stronger, and this can be easily tested through kinesiology. Here's one way to test it. Get a partner, somebody at all to help you, doesn't matter who. You're going to stand with one arm out to your side, so it's pointing straight out to the side, and you're going to try to hold it there without straining, and your partner is going to rest their hand on your wrist. Should be the top side of your wrist. Then you are going to say something that you know in your heart lacks integrity. As you are saying it, your partner will then try to push your arm down without straining. This isn't about who's physically stronger. Now, when they do this, it should feel pretty powerless. Your arm should go down pretty easy, and it should feel as though you suddenly got weak. Then what we're going to do is extend our arm again. We're going to say something, this time with integrity, as our partner tries to once again lower our arm. This time your arm should feel far more powerful and be able to hold the integrity of its placement in space. This tells you everything you need to know about integrity and indeed all of these virtues. We need to reclaim a sense of personal integrity within our own character and then extend that out into everything we do. To have integrity, we do this even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. The right thing is not always easy, and it's not always comfortable. Comfort has become incredibly overrated. And as with all of these virtues, we cannot cherry pick when we display them. We either have them or we don't. Please take a moment to sit back and contemplate how much better the world would be if we all acted with a greater sense of integrity. Virtue number 3, honesty. This is obviously important, and again, a virtue we are in great need of these days. We live in a time of unprecedented corruption and criminality. These behaviors are strong examples of the egoic nature of contraction. The more we draw inwards, get stuck in our head, the more ego there is, the more contraction there is. When we free ourselves of this, we truly experience expansion. Honesty is another virtue that starts from within. And this is the most challenging point when it comes to being honest, is to be honest with ourselves. One of the most challenging aspects of mental and spiritual development is the ability for us to be brutally honest with ourselves. It's been said that up to 95% of everything we do in a day is done unconsciously, meaning mindlessly. Think about that number for a minute. That's huge. And we spend about the same percentage of time a day lying to ourselves in various ways, mostly in the name of pacifying our own ego. Honesty, being honest with ourselves, is quite a challenge. Yet, we cannot truly be honest with anyone else if we are unable to be honest with ourselves. So this is where honesty starts. Then we must learn to be honest with others, even if it's uncomfortable for us to do so. You'll find that holding these virtues is not always easy, but they do represent the right thing to say and do. As they say, honesty is always the best policy. We cannot have an open heart when we are being dishonest. It can't happen. When we speak and act honestly, our hearts open, or if they were already open, they remain open, and we live in a state of expansion. Just as a caveat here, in my opinion, from my own experiences, which I'm sharing with you, so you take it for what it's worth, I look at it this way. I try my best to be brutally honest with myself. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be brutally honest with others, right? Sometimes we don't need to be quite that honest. We can be honest without being as honest as we simply must be with ourselves. Honesty does not give us a pass to be mean. Take a moment to pause and contemplate how much better the world would be if we were honest with ourselves, we were honest with others, and others were honest with us. Imagine how much better the world could be if honesty was the normal policy. Through these virtues, we can manifest a better self and a better world. These are just the first 3 virtues. We'll examine the others in the next installment. Please visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. Get an autographed copy of Expansion Mastery there, as well as all kinds of other goodies. Check it out, and as usual, please help us by doing the sharing and the liking and subscribing, all that social media stuff. All of that truly, truly helps. We're seeing an increase of that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you all very much. I am aware of every one of you who is doing it, and you have my deep appreciation. Until next time, my friends, I wish you the very best in your practices and your life. Take care.